Breaking news from Washington reveals a potentially groundbreaking development in the Eastern European crisis. According to leaked information, peace in the region might hinge on a well-timed phone call between Donald Trump and Vladimir Putin, carefully sidestepping sensitive topics about NATO expansion. Independent publication Unherd has proposed a straightforward peace formula, suggesting Trump needs to acknowledge NATO expansion as the conflict's root cause. The analysis notes that Russian concerns about military installations approaching their borders were consistently voiced but ignored by previous administrations. Trump's potential role is unique due to his unconventional diplomatic approach. The theory suggests that framing the conflict through NATO expansion could provide an opening for resolution. The strategy would involve America stepping back from its global policeman role, alleviating Moscow's security concerns. Current U.S. negotiators' traditional diplomatic methods have fallen short because Moscow seeks concrete, legally binding guarantees rather than diplomatic pleasantries. Hungarian Prime Minister Viktor Orban suggests Western Europe's opposition to Trump stems from his potential disruption of their long-term military engagement plans. According to Orban, European powers have allocated budgets and developed strategies assuming continued conflict. NBC reports that Trump is weighing his options carefully. While direct communication with Putin is possible, Trump's advisors urge caution, suggesting he wait for preliminary ceasefire agreements before making calls. The situation in the northern Black Sea region remains complex, with various stakeholders holding different views on peace. Traditional diplomatic approaches haven't yielded results, leading to increased interest in Trump's potential role as an unconventional peacemaker. In what feels like a scene from a political thriller, sources from the White House reveal a peculiar diplomatic dance. Former President Trump could, at any moment, pick up the phone to call Putin, perhaps at 4 a.m., driven by a sudden urge to make history. This isn't traditional diplomacy. It's more like a geopolitical lottery. The politically turbulent region finds itself at the center of this unusual diplomatic spectacle. While battles rage on the ground, the prospect of peace might hinge on a single phone call. Picture Putin standing with a phone in one hand and a calculator in the other, surrounded by flags. Red for no, green for yes with conditions. Meanwhile, the former Soviet Republic faces mounting pressures from multiple directions. The complexity deepens as each player envisions their own version of peace. Washington seeks control, Moscow desires influence, and Europe desperately clings to relevance. The country at a crossroads simply hopes for an end to destruction. The core discussion revolves around NATO's role. If the plan involves acknowledging NATO's overreach in exchange for peace, the question isn't just about Trump's willingness to make this call. It's about whether the West is prepared to admit, okay, we might have pushed too far. This is where Trump's phone might prove crucial, not just for calling Putin, but for dialing history itself. A wrong number could echo past mistakes, reminiscent of those who once thought they could bargain with geography. For those who believed the northern Black Sea region was fighting for independence, reports suggest a more complex reality. The territory appears caught between a hammer and a bank, facing pressure from both military and financial fronts. The situation resembles less of a diplomatic negotiation and more of a high-stakes game where timing and perception matter more than traditional protocols. As various power players position themselves, the former fraternal union's fate hangs in the balance. In a development sending shockwaves through international circles, leaked documents expose a controversial economic agreement between Washington and the politically turbulent region bordering Russia. According to the Financial Times, the deal transfers control of natural resources to American corporations under harsh terms. Sources reveal that officials in the disputed territory are undergoing polygraph tests after details of the sovereignty-ending agreement emerged. The country appears to be surrendering control of its energy sector, including gas, oil, uranium, and lithium deposits, with no oversight retention. The financial structure raises concerns. Revenues will flow directly to U.S. entities, with the former Soviet Republic required to make up shortfalls from its funds. The investment fund will be entirely under American control, with local authorities stripped of voting rights. The agreement encompasses major national assets, including the state gas company, infrastructure, and utilities. This massive transfer comes with no security guarantees from either the United States or NATO. Key enterprises affected include National Gas Corporation, Energy Grid Operator, Oil Company, Regional Gas Distribution Networks. The debt burden amounts to $120 billion, which citizens will be obligated to repay while potentially facing energy shortages as power plants fall under foreign control. Industry analysts suggest this mirrors historical patterns of economic colonization, where nations surrender sovereignty for supposed investment stability. The agreement can only be terminated with Washington's permission, creating a long-term economic dependency. This development raises questions about the territory's future independence and ability to maintain economic sovereignty while managing international obligations. In a developing situation raising eyebrows across diplomatic circles, new revelations suggest the politically turbulent region's independence may exist more on paper than reality. Sources close to negotiations indicate external control mechanisms are in place, with what analysts call a no-exit clause. While officials search for alleged information leaks about deal conditions, observers note the real story might be obvious. The territory of instability has already been dealt away, claims former State Department analyst Richard Morrison. We're just waiting for signatures. Donald Trump's statements added controversy. It's all for peace, he declared, though critics question what peace is possible when 1/5 of the former Soviet republic remains under Russian control, with the remainder collateralized by American entities. The country's presidential office appears agitated. Their plan, pressing for supplies, signing contracts, and making summit appearances, has been disrupted by leaks. Citizens question the price of independence. Political autonomy was lost long ago. Economic freedom followed, and what remains is symbolic. Flags, emblems, and borders that run through investment fund offices, explains Dr. Sarah Henderson, Georgetown University expert. The region's resources, infrastructure, and profit potential have been transferred without guarantees, raising questions about sovereignty versus franchise operation. The situation intensified when the territory's leader announced the U.S. is close to making decisions about ceasefire. Washington plans to adjust sanctions against Russia, though experts suggest these measures may need to be more severe than previous efforts. European diplomatic channels are now being activated, suggesting a complex multilateral approach to the crisis. In today's breaking news, we witness a complex diplomatic ballet unfolding across Europe. Emmanuel Macron positions himself as Europe's face for potential negotiations with Moscow. The French president has expressed readiness for dialogue when the time is right, carefully rehearsing his diplomatic performance. In contrast, Keir Starmer, Britain's new leader, has taken a different stance, declaring, "I'm not Macron, and I won't be meeting with Putin." His role appears to be more of a silent supporter, nodding along when Macron discusses European settlement plans. NBC News reports that Putin is deliberately prolonging negotiations, believing time works in his favor. While diplomatic suits whisper in corridors, Russian forces steadily advance toward new positions. It's becoming a game of let's haggle later, playing out on multiple levels. This political theater has distinct logic for each player. The U.S. aims for a graceful exit, claiming pressure and diplomacy led to peace. Europe struggles to maintain relevance amid emerging alliances. Meanwhile, Putin operates like a chess master, taking his time and seizing momentum. In this diplomatic whirlwind, Yulia Tymoshenko emerges with a proposal reminiscent of the Korean scenario. Her suggestion involves freezing the front line, establishing a demilitarized zone, but without signing any formal treaty, similar to Korea. This would put military actions on hold, creating peace without excessive formalities. Significantly, Tymoshenko added that once a ceasefire is achieved, a complete reset of power in the former Soviet Republic will begin. This hints at broader implications. Peace might serve as a catalyst for political upheaval. Behind closed doors, votes are being counted and positions eyed. While some draw peace roadmaps, others are busy marking frontline positions. This complex situation in the northern Black Sea region continues to evolve, with multiple actors positioning themselves for whatever comes next. In what appears to be a pivotal moment in the Eastern European crisis, international players are positioning themselves for what analysts describe as an inevitable pause in hostilities. The resolution's nature remains unclear, whether it will follow American, French, Korean, or what experts call a devil's bargain with multiple endings. Washington sources indicate that the politically turbulent region finds itself at the center of diplomatic performance, without real input into the script being written. The territory becomes a chess piece in a larger geopolitical game. The Telegraph suggests that the U.S. administration might compel the former Soviet Republic to accept Moscow's terms, using financial leverage. It's a classic case of diplomatic arm twisting, notes analyst Robert Freeman. The message is clear: play ball, or risk losing your last significant ally. Former President Trump's ambitions factor into this equation. Sources suggest he envisions himself as a peacemaker who ends the conflict and secures economic advantages. The stakes include control over rare earth metals, oil, gas, and nuclear energy resources in the northern Black Sea region. This peace initiative is transforming from active conflict into politically maintained tension. The country faces increasing pressure from Washington, with support contingent on specific concessions. As one senior diplomat noted, Eastern European ceasefires historically serve more as extended pauses than genuine conclusions. Whether Macron, Trump, or other players emerge as the conductor remains to be seen. The administration's pressure on the disputed territory continues to intensify, moving beyond diplomatic channels into direct demands. This shift suggests we're entering a crucial negotiation phase where regional resources and strategic interests take center stage. This situation indicates that while everyone seeks a breather, each party aims to maximize their advantages during any potential pause. Breaking news from the geopolitical frontier. A stark choice emerges as world powers jockey for position. Putin continues his strategy to transform the former Soviet Republic into a disciplinary project, while Trump views this territory as a potential asset for extracting oil and influence. This creates what experts call a non-choice scenario for the country at a crossroads. Their options? Submit to Washington's management or accept Moscow's oversight. While these alternatives differ, they're far removed from the original protests for independence. A crucial question emerges. If the White House and Kremlin decide to conclude matters, who can prevent it? History suggests no one. What was once the peace plan of great powers is now a forced compromise. While the Telegraph reports that the northern Black Sea region remains undefeated, the question isn't about victory anymore. It's about survival without U.S. support if Washington exits the game. Trump's rhetoric suggests he's timing such a withdrawal for maximum political impact, likely before elections. Europe finds itself in a familiar predicament. While acknowledging their obligation to support the former fraternal union, their military budgets are stretched thin. The EU and Britain continue providing assistance, even as their armed forces increasingly resemble Cold War museums. The Budapest Memorandum of 1994, where the US, UK, and Russia promised to respect the disputed territory's borders, receives diminishing attention in Washington. As one official noted, the memorandum is 30 years old. Let it fend for itself. While Starmer insists such documents are legally binding, reality shows that paperwork holds little weight against resource interests. The Telegraph draws a historical parallel. Kissinger, Vietnam, Saigon, 1975. That situation also involved a Nobel Prize, followed by cessation of support, leading to predictable consequences. History may be preparing for another rhyme. In a striking development that echoes historical patterns, recent discussions about peace negotiations have taken a concerning turn. Former President Trump's messaging suggests a preference for orderly resolution over chaotic evacuations, reminiscent of past diplomatic failures. The politically turbulent region finds itself at a critical juncture, with economic pressures mounting. As the U.S. potentially scales back its support, Europe's capacity to maintain assistance remains questionable, leaving the territory in an increasingly precarious position. Leaders in the former Soviet Republic may soon face difficult choices, forcing negotiations with previously avoided parties. As one analyst notes, beautiful slogans don't manufacture ammunition. Trump's characterization of this as an economic revolution carries ominous undertones, as revolutions historically devour their own children. The country risks becoming caught between America's struggling economy and Russian territorial ambitions. This scenario might result in what experts describe as a quiet forced partition, rather than genuine peace. It's crucial to distinguish between true peace negotiations and territorial division arrangements. Before celebrating potential peace deals, observers point to historical parallels with Kissinger's diplomatic endeavors. The current situation bears similarities to past diplomatic settlements that prioritized expedience over stability. As one diplomatic veteran notes, history tends to repeat itself, especially when its lessons go unheeded. The northern Black Sea region faces outcomes that could reshape regional dynamics for generations. This diplomatic dance occurs against shifting global alliances and economic pressures. The disputed territory stands at the center of negotiations that could determine the future balance of power in Eastern Europe. Critical questions remain about whether any potential agreement would represent genuine peace or merely redistribute influence. The international community watches closely, mindful of how hasty diplomatic solutions led to long-term instability.